Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first Preemie chat in a while. Hope everyone's well. We are doing this live on Facebook and YouTube, and you can hopefully check us out there. And sorry for the bangs. You're going to hear a couple of those every once in a while because I can't turn that off on my laptop. Today, we are talking with a life coach, an energy healer, and also she was our guest, our most recent blogger on our guest blog series, Rachel Kaufman. And let me bring her on right now. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Nicole. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. I think I mentioned almost a guest blogger piece and that you're a life coach and energy healer. And I forgot the most important part while you're here, you're a preemie parent.
Yep. Makes sense that I'm here.
Yes. Thank you so much for being on our live chat. We haven't done a live chat in a few months, so you're sort of like getting us back into it. So thank you.
Guinea pig, always excited to be guinea pig.
So why don't we just get right into it and talk about your preemie and NICU journey.
For those of people who haven't read my story yet, I had my son 11 weeks early. So it was, or from the mother's side, 29 weeks, 2 days, I never know which one to say, but it was early and the pregnancy was going fine the whole time. And then as you can read more, people can read more in my story. I was just kind of noticing some signs that the few days before he was born that things were a little bit off, some concavity, if that's a word, of my belly. If I'd sit up in bed, I would notice it sort of shrink, like shriveling, like the belly, wow. The nice pregnant belly shape kind of would go in like this. That was the back of my head. And so the morning he was born, I woke up and I didn't feel him kicking. And I tell this in my story, like I tried all these different things to get him to kick, orange juice, the cat and cow yoga stretching. They say, oh, try this, your baby will move. And 28 weeks, for those of you that don't know, is when the third trimester starts. And that's when the amniotic fluid is actually, it's gross, but it's the baby's pee. Basically, it comes from, so if the baby's getting enough nutrition and it's peeing and I suppose pooping, it's something in fetus way, then everything's great. But if the baby's not getting enough nutrition, then the uterine, the amniotic fluid starts to shrink. And I worked in maternal and child health for years. So, maybe I knew some technical things, right, going into it. And so then I called my doctor and he said, oh, how many weeks are you? Let's meet at the hospital. And that began my journey. And this was in Washington, D.C. That began my journey. As I say in the story, I went into the hospital thinking I was going to come back out in a few hours and basically didn't come out for a while. Well, at least not the way I was expecting to come out of the hospital. And so I ended up having an emergency C-section because my son's heartbeat was up to like 155 and that would go down to 60 and go up again and down again. And they said, your baby's in distress. And I'm like, what the heck? He's 29 weeks. Like he's not ready. And I fought it. I'm kind of stubborn. So I was like, can you guys double and triple check? You're not cutting him out of me until you double and triple check. Yeah. And he actually did, to his credit, the doctor did send the fetal heartbeat, whatever you call that thing, that creates this whole long printout. And he faxed it, good old time fax. He faxed it to some specialist guy he knew in like another state. And the guy called him back and said, yeah, this baby's in distress. So they did double check. And maybe it was stubborn of me to fight it, but it was probably like 15, 20 minutes, between them telling me this needs to happen and me fighting it. And then it's just kind of all whirlwind again. I won't go into all the details, but I ended up being wheeled into the OR. And of course they didn't have, and this is where the humor comes in, is like the black comedy humor where they didn't have a room ready. So I had to wait. And they told me it's an emergency, but yet they had to wait. And then when I was wheeled out into the hallway, the alarms, the lights started going off, like those red flashing lights in the hallway. Oh, yeah. Nothing to do with me, but I was like, what the heck is going on here? It was just like this farce, this surreal. Yeah. And that's kind of where already my messages of intuition and humor, I've used my intuition to go to the hospital, and now the humor is kicking in because I'm like, this is a surreal experience. And everyone has most people I know have had crazy birth stories. You know, like, very few of my friends have had nice, peaceful, you know, in a tub, in the water, in their living room. Like, I know it sounds great, right? And I know there are people that do that, but not mine. So then, you know, he came out and he was bruised and battered because I stubbornly had been belly dancing 2 days before. I was still like dancing and performing, you know, and he was just, you know, not even fully formed. And I'm sure a lot of people in this audience have gone through that, where the baby's born and, you know, his nails weren't in yet. I know it's weird, but, you know, he's a boy, so his, you know, the whole boy parts down there are not fully formed, and his eyes were like black because I guess there's a coating that comes on, and then so everything was unformed. He was still, you know, he was still baking. And as my husband says, like, I only lightly toasted him or something. Some saying about that. So it was, and then he was transferred to a different hospital because the hospital where he was born, they can only accommodate 32-week preemies and up. And he was 29 weeks, 2 days. So I stayed in the hospital 2 more days. So he's born on a Friday, and I was sprung from the hospital on Sunday. And in the meantime, you know, my family had gone into the hospital. So everyone got to see him before me. Well, I got to see him for like a second.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much more detail I should go into, but that's kind of the gist of the whirlwind.
Yeah.
Of that.
And how long was he in the NICU?
So he was there, counted 58 days.
Okay.
And so it's basically 2 months. He was, you know, the last week, I'd say he was out of the isolette and he was in the open container, you know, like out and about in the world in this larger baby section, but he was still too small and he wasn't passing the car seat test. And I'm sure listeners here know the test you have to pass. His main issues were, you know, trying to eat or drink, whatever, you know, eat thing, and breathing. So he had a lot of those issues, and then he was just too small for the car seat. So probably he could have been out a little bit earlier. And overall, he was, you know, doing pretty well in the NICU. He did get staph infection from one of the nurses, we think. So that was a little frightening. And I go into that in my story, and just kind of the call of the unknown. When the NICU would call me, my phone would literally say unknown. I mean, I tried to program it so it would say, you know, the hospital's calling. And they did call one night and they said, your baby's kind of listless and not doing great. And of course, you know, you freak out. And I went over to the hospital and they explained that he had gotten a staph infection from, I guess, someone who touched the PICC line, the line that goes into, and bacteria had gotten in. He was just kind of, I don't know if that was the time where I walked in, there was blood drops all over the floor because they'd given him a transfusion. I mean, you know, we all had our kind of NICU horror stories, and oh yeah, he had a transfusion. Like, why is there blood dripping? I mean, you know, but I had a pretty overall calm experience in the NICU. My husband would come in at night after he was working, because I would be there all day, and he would see all these babies crashing, and it was really, you know, that's his story to tell, but really traumatic. So but overall he had a pretty, physically, like a pretty smooth ride, except for the staph infection part.
That's good. How old is he now?
He just turned 12 in March.
Oh, okay. I'm going to bring up the photos now. I just want to make sure, like, we covered everything first.
Yeah. So that top photo is, he would, you know, he was born 2 pounds, 1 ounce. So when they put him on my chest, you know, you can barely feel him. He's it's like a feather. And I couldn't see him either because he's down here. So I had a little mirror my mom gave me. You can see me holding the mirror. So I can see him. You know, it's crazy. I couldn't even see him. And, you know, that's probably his isolette behind there. And his head was so small. We still have that hat, and it is unbelievable how small it is. His head was just like this little, you know. And he always asks me, was I cute when I was born? And I'm like, No, you really, you were not. Look at the pictures, dude. Like you were not cute. But yeah, but as you can see, he got cuter. Here's, the lower picture of me feeding him. And he was very like, lazy on purpose. He didn't want to hold his bottle or hold his spoon. So I had to feed him all the time. And I caught him one time holding his spoon and he looked at me and like dropped it. So,
Oh.
yes, I call him the cute manipulator.
Yes.
So he got round. He looks round in this picture, but he actually had a flat head in the back.
Oh, from laying back on the.
I think so. We gave him a lot of tummy time, but and here we are in Hawaii a couple months ago. There's the 12-year-old with his cute braces on and knobby knees, and yeah, he's doing amazing. He's fortunately, no brain bleeds, super smart and healthy. He's very sometimes feels bad that he's so small and skinny, and I don't know if it's because he was a preemie or just his genetics, but there's that whole you got to eat well and do all this stuff. We fed you well in the NICU and gave you a good start.
Yeah, they're all a little skinny like that. My twin micro preemies are probably exact same clothes in that look right there, the knobby knees, and just like, do you have any body fat? So I get it.
Yeah, we're like, can we give you some of our body fat? He's like, sure, give me some.
Hilarious. That's great.
It's really fun,
Yeah, that's awesome. So with all this and what you went through and your family, because you're a life coach and energy healer, were you doing those things prior to having your son?
So yeah, I worked in international public health, and I also had been learning Reiki since 2001.
Okay.
And so I was doing Reiki healing. I also am a reflexologist, so I was working as my side gig for many years, doing energy healing, and also just I grew up. Can you hear me? Oh.
Yeah, no, that was me. I just clicked, and I'm so sorry. It was supposed to be this slide, not the other slide.
No worries.
Yes.
So I was doing energy healing, on the side, and always very embodied, which, just aware of my body, which is and my intuition. So probably just because I'm an empathic person and grew up dancing. And so when those signs came up that he wasn't doing well, it was because I think I was listening to my body, and that intuition that I've been using with my clients, obviously I use it myself too. So the life coaching came later. I started learning that during COVID, and started a program. And so now my logo is this the infinity sign. It's the integration, hence my name of my company, Integrated Healing Vibes, of the coaching and the energy healing.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's very fun. And most of my clients are, kind of stressed out middle-aged parents. Not all of them. I do have clients, their kids range in different ages. And, some of them have talked to me about their kids' births or just, the stress that they have. And I know it's interesting when I tell people, when I share this story, this story came from a book that I have a chapter in her badass stories. For anyone who is interested in, this is a bookmark, sorry. Anyone who's interested in sharing a story of theirs, it is open. It's, for women to write their experiences with traumas they've gone through. And I'm the only one in this book who talks about the preemie trauma experience. But I lost my train of thought there. My clients. So the stories start coming out, and I'd love to hear if anyone's watching now, or later on, contact me, people's stories. So people started to share their stories of their experiences or their mother. Like I have a friend who was a preemie, and she realized after reading my book, oh, I didn't realize all the stuff my mom went through. Even my husband was a preemie. He's a twin. We both have, and he and his brother were born 4 weeks early. So you start to, it's like a a community, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to hear other people's stories. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, from the book, can you go a little bit more? So just so people know, Rachel, we did a 3-part series for her based on her chapter in the book, Her Badass Stories. It's part 2, correct? The book itself, is it called part 2 or just Her Badass Stories 2?
Yes, the first one's like a yellow brown.
Yeah. Okay.
Story 2. My friend and I, who was a preemie, who I just mentioned, she's also involved in this book.
Oh,
and
cool.
We love purple, and so we actually got them to make it purple. And the third book is this color here that I see here, the teal. So
the teal. Okay.
This one's is a different color. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. And it's an amazing sort of series or collaboration of women who have, I'm not going to say gone through a lot of stuff, but it's also sort of, it's women who want to show their strength and the courage they went through with probably a multitude of different things. Each chapter is a different woman, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So Rachel graciously shared her story, and we did a 3-part series. So you can also read her story on our Preemie blog, which is online at grahamsfoundation.com, or you can go buy the whole book. And it's on Amazon. And or you can even, as she said, contact her. I've already put her website in the comments if you're interested, just to see what Rachel's all about, which is great. And then also, I think the follow-up question I had is: Are any of your clients preemie parents? Like, have you been able to, I don't know, share your story and understand where they're coming from?
So currently, with my coaching energy healing clients, no one has, at least, they haven't come to me because they've had a preemie, but sometimes the birth stuff comes out, and then they realize, and I think sometimes people don't realize that there's been a trauma until they talk about it. So that's kind of where the coaching comes in. And also, like I mentioned before, people sharing their experiences, oh, my friend had this happen to her, and I realized I was a preemie. People start to, it's like healing just to talk about it. So I'm hoping that I can, because I have this background, they say, do what you know, right? So like a middle-aged mom, there's one thing. Preemie mom, that's another part of the, the peeling back of the onion. So if there's anyone out there that feels overwhelmed, just had a preemie, or even if it was years ago, I'm happy to support them, because I have all these tools, and I do the healing work in person and virtually.
Oh, good. Okay.
Right. So you can be anywhere, and I can do the coaching and the healing. And I think because I understand that background, and everyone has their unique experience, but there's this commonality, what we've all gone through. And I'd love to collaborate more with people who are looking for that. And I've been a mentor to preemie parents for many years through a couple organizations, and that's been rewarding. So it's kind of like I'm using my coaching skills and my energy healing, because sometimes they ask me for Reiki or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. We have I was just going to ask people, anyone watching, if you'd like to comment or share your story, or you have a question for Rachel, please go ahead and put it in the comments. I will bring it up, and actually someone has, so I'm going to share it right now. Just a nice comment to have.
Great. I love this. The strength of a woman who has experienced trauma and come out on the other side is unmatched. What a fun way to celebrate the full journey. Thank you, Amanda. Yes, definitely. I write about this in the chapter, and I'm looking at it because, I wrote this a while ago, and I'm trying to remember my words, but I realized, I say at the end that, we humans learn again and again to tap into this primordial well of resilience and strength and other good stuff, and be badasses, which is, the chapter thing. It helps us feel more empowered and perhaps a little bit proud and in awe of what we can accomplish. This can lead to more self-trust, love, and joy in our daily lives, which I think we all need. So I think once I wrote this story out, kind of downloaded it, I realized, wow, like when you join a book, it's called Her Badass Story, you have to kind of feel like a badass. And as I was telling the story and writing it down, I'm like, oh, I am a badass. And I started to realize everyone around me, we all the stuff we do, especially the moms, the dads too, but there are a lot of badasses out there, and it's reclaiming that word, from the, like, I think the biker community, the biker Harley Davidson biker community years ago. And now we've reclaimed it as moms, that we have this amazing experience, and look how amazing we did and resilient.
Yeah.
So it's nice for so many years I kind of kept it hidden, and so to be able to share it with you all is really nice, and just to hear other people's stories.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's great. And like you said, do what you know, and everything that you do sort of, it's not like a tight little package, but it's like, it almost taps in on every little not issue. I don't want to say trauma either, because some people don't believe that, it's a trauma, but like sort of what they're looking for to help them feel whole again, or just come together and just feel, I really think it taps into all of that, which is great.
I remember after my son was born, and, for those of you that understand like energy and literally, nerves, we all understand that, nerves, right? So they cut you and your nerves are cut. Mm-hmm. And I literally felt like one of those magic shows where they cut me in half, and one of my good friends came to visit, one of the only friends that came to see me in the hospital, because it was so last minute, nobody knew about it. Mm-hmm. She does Reiki also, and she felt my energy, and she's like, you're completely, it's just like cut off, and so there's that physical cut off. And then of course, I talk about my story, feeling isolated, cut off from the world, when you're told you can bring your baby home, but you can't see anybody because they're going to get infection. So that, that isolation. And so I really work with, with clients, and people who've had preemies can really benefit from helping people get more grounded, like you said, and centered, feeling like themselves again.
Yeah.
Because and I'm sure you too, like I didn't feel like myself for a while. And, even as parents, even if our kids are born, nothing's wrong, we worry about them a lot, and we forget about ourselves.
Yeah.
So and I think I'm segueing on my own into advice, right? I felt like
right into that question.
Nicole. But yeah, like my advice is just, and I have a bunch of bullet points in the book. But my main messages, which is the title of this, our chat, is using intuition and humor.
Yeah.
And, for me, I find tapping into intuition is so great on so many levels. It's fun. You realize there's more out there than just what you see. When you really start to trust yourself and your body and your instincts and your vibes, right? You trust what's coming at you. You maybe get a message. For those of you out there that, maybe think something might be wrong, but no, I'm going to ignore it. Don't ignore it. I could have done that, and, my son wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And, not to get like sad, but, it happens. And so I really, encourage people to trust your intuition. I'm actually starting a program on playing with intuition, because there's a lot of people, it's really the backbone of what I do. If I didn't have, focus or trust my intuition, how am I going to be a healer, right? And tap into like people when I'm coaching with them. So that, and, just doing things that make you feel you again, even if it's going for a run for 10 minutes, or, walking barefoot in the grass, smelling the flowers, that helps us ground. Like what helps, think about what helps you feel yourself again. Isn't it nice? No offense to the kids, but isn't it nice for 5 minutes to forget you're a mom and just be like, like, oh, I used to do this, Do
you want to know when I feel like that? When I used to close the door after putting them in their car seats and take the long way to walk around my car. That was a 10-second break of just like, okay. And I take a deep breath, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going for a stroll. Then I get in the car, and I'm like, okay, back into it.
As long as you don't forget them in the car, right? Because
I do not forget them in the car. They're 11 now, so they're good.
They're good. Yeah, they've survived till 11.
Yeah.
I do joke with my kid sometimes, and he has a good sense of humor, thank God. Or I don't know if it's nature and nurture, but I'm like, not every kid survives, not just the NICU, but like not every kid wants their kid to live. And, you like, sometimes people forget their kids in the car. Is it on purpose? I don't know, but I'm glad that
exhaustion. I think that's
exhaustion. I would recommend doing that as but a lot of people they say a common thing is they go into the bathroom and they just close the door and they have a breather from their family. And I think that's good. And I would encourage people to go a little bit farther, dream a little bit more, how can I and
beyond the bathroom.
Go beyond the bathroom. Like, tell your family you're going for a walk and go, walk by a creek or something with flowing water or whatever makes you feel good. And so this daily self-care, I say in my like list of things in this chapter is like, self-care is crucial. And you also have to have self-compassion. Why are you doing the self-care? You're just remembering that we as parents we are modeling for our kids. So if we're stressed out and yelling, they're going to learn that. So it's easier said than done, right? So I just think that, and of course humor, like I have a friend who also has a podcast, and she's like, I'm so appreciative that you use humor, because that she uses humor to get through life's traumas. And I think you do too. It's just like laughing feels really good,
It does. And when some people, I've been told, and we're not going to go into my story here, this is about you, but when people are like, oh, you have a really good, sense or everything, I'm like, in my back of my head, I'm like, if I didn't laugh, I would be crying.
Right.
Like, you really have to just keep going. And, they say comedy is tragedy plus time equals humor. So, that's just, you have to, because it happened and you can't deny it. So you just keep moving forwards, and some things get funnier and a little darker funnier as the time progresses.
Yeah. And I always like when crazy stuff's happening to me, I always think this will be a funny story later, or it will be a story.
Yes.
And 11 years later, because when I wrote this, my son was 11, that came out as a story. So it was a story, but I hadn't really, so it feels good. I also recommend just like writing in a journal or sharing it with people. I knew someone in my son's preschool who had, both her kids were preemies, and I wanted to talk with her about it, and she wasn't ready. She didn't want to talk about it. I don't know if she's talking about it yet after, her daughter's probably 12 now. But everyone has their own pace. And so if you're not ready to talk about it, totally understandable. But if you feel like you want to talk about it and you're not, I'm here for people. I have a lot of clients who say, oh, there's nobody I can talk to about X, Y, and Z. And that's kind of my role, is like, I'm here to be that neutral person to help people talk about it. So having that preemie background is also why I'm hoping I can help more people with that experience,
No, that's great. Yeah, definitely. I think that's also how some parents find Graham's Foundation, because then they want to share their story, and it's a blog post to share their experience, what they went through. Or we do preemie shares as well online, which are sort of like short little blurbs. But yeah, I totally agree with that. But
yeah, and I like reading other people's stories too. And you, even if it's a different story, you're like, oh, even just I remember meeting a woman who to me still sounds crazy. She loved the NICU. She had a great time in the NICU. I know, right? And
this 24-hour care.
I know. And like I say, I think somewhere, like, I didn't, at least in the story, I didn't have to change poopy diapers for 2 months. And my son's diaper was like the size of a, sanitary pad, right?
Yeah.
But my experience is very isolating, and I didn't love the experience. And also just ergonomically, the hospital we were in, it's just, I really hope they renovated it. It's just, it was horrible. Like these 50-pound, things you had to wheel in so you could breastfeed in the middle of like the room, and men were watching, and it was just ergonomically horrible. And in the nation's capital, I won't name names, but so some people had a great time. That's great. But when I hear other people are like, no, the NICU sucked, I kind of feel good. Like, okay, I wasn't the only one who thought it sucked.
I understand that. We're already left of center, or the norm that everyone experiences in having a child. And then to like have another subset where you're just like, okay, no one had that. And then you find someone who's experienced something almost close to what you've had, and you're like, oh my God, it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does make you feel good. I mean, so, and still, 12 years later, and obviously it's still affecting me. And like the classic joy of, the joy of birth or whatever that they advertise on TV and in movies. Like,
Yeah.
I watch, I'm sure a lot of you have seen Call the Midwife, it's like there's babies being born left and right and all the shows, and there's a lot of trauma, but there's still a lot of like great happy stories. And so, there's a million stories. Oh, well, a million, there's 8 billion stories, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate people reading what I have to say, and I'd love to learn, find even more community, because I haven't been active with Graham's Foundation that long.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to meet you and all the other amazing people on staff. You're doing amazing work.
Oh, thank you. So are you. And it's great to actually connect and see how down the line we can work together, other than just like, posting and whatnot, but we can connect with the rest of our team. In fact, the person who made the comment, Amanda Tellman, is actually one of our team members. So,
and we know she's had a preemie. Yeah.
Yes, she's had everyone on our team has had a preemie. So,
yeah.
But what else? I think we've actually we covered everything right there. I don't know if I've watched the amount of people come and go, like it's a fluctuation, because as preemie parents are busy.
A little busy, yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's going into dinner time on the East Coast right now, right? You're at 5.
Yeah, 5.
So people may not be, but I don't know if we'll hang for a minute or two, see if anyone has a question they want to post or a comment. And if not, totally cool, because this will be forever on social media until the AI takes over. And people can watch it again, and we'll also have like little snippets on TikTok and whatnot. But I do want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk and share your story and share what you do and how people can get a hold of you. And even if people are interested in being a part of her badass stories, they can get in contact with you, and you can connect them to is it the author editor? Is that who that is? Who does that?
Yeah, they've gone through a few editors. She's the first 2 renditions, different editor. She's now the editor, because she took things. She's a badass. Lori, in her own hands. And I'm sure that she would welcome more stories that are different from mine, but same vein. There's it's cathartic to get that out there. So don't be afraid to share it, and have it be your public journal. It's vulnerable. It's being vulnerable, and sharing it. So thank you for having me on and letting me share some of the excitement that went on in my life.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Just hold on tight, and we'll be right back. I'm just going to do our last little thing, which is we'd like to thank our sponsors for letting us do this live stream, which is Sage Therapeutics and Biogen. They are committed to further the science of depression and bring new ideas to life. Thank you so much. And if you ever need anything from Graham's, you can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So thank you so much for joining. We'll see you on the next one.